I thought I would share with you two things that I'm extremely proud of. My favorite and most important moment of my life probably was my baptism, followed very closely by my ordination of the priesthood. And there's a couple of other things that follow that, which I'll save for another homily. And the other two times of my life that I'm most proud of something that I have done was when I earned these two medals. And these two medals, and I know I don't look like it, are for running the Columbus Half Marathon 2 years in a row. And it was a great experience. Now, I am not built as a runner. I'm not supposed to be running at my size. And you know what? It was still a really neat experience. And one of the things that got me into it was that some of my seminary brothers in Rome, in my 4th year, ran the Rome Marathon. And I said, man, I really envy those guys. I'd like to be able to do that. And so I guess 2 half marathons equal 1 full marathon. So I've done it, in a sense. Now this one is the one from 2007. And this is the one from 2008. And this is the first one that I ever, this is the first race that I ever ran. I never ran in a 5K or a 10K. There's no halfway doing it with me. I jumped right into a half marathon. And I started training for this in early January of 2007. And the way that I did it is I couldn't run a mile. So I walked a mile one week, and I walked 2 miles the next week. And the third week I ran a mile. Then the 4th week I ran 2 miles, 3 miles up until the race. And it took me 16 weeks altogether to prepare for this. And what I had to do is I didn't simply just run. I had to cut things out of my life. I had to cut out junk food. I had to cut out sugar, which is one of the reasons I still don't eat it today, is because I had great benefits from that. I had to cut out time of my schedule to practice for this. And when the race day finally came, I ran all but a half a mile of the half marathon. And of course I didn't come in first, but I was so proud, and I have the picture hanging up in my room along with these medals for getting this medal. I was really happy because I put in the work, and it was hard, and it was tough, and you know, it was a lot of perseverance, and I was really happy to do it. So I thought I would do it again the next year. Instead, the next year at St. Mary's, I ran this half marathon. 1 year later, I started training later. I didn't give up as much junk food as I wanted to, as I should have. I didn't run 3 times a week. I just sort of assumed that because I had done it the year before, that this one was going to be easy. I added another 14, 15 minutes onto my time. It was grueling. It was hard. I was tired. It was sore. It was not as much fun as running this first one. And that's simply because in this one, I didn't prepare. Does anybody see where I'm going with this? Okay. For the next 6 weeks, we are preparing for a race. We are preparing to run the course. We are prepared to walk the way of the cross with our Lord Jesus Christ. And that means that we had better start training right now. And this is what Lent is all about. It is not simply one-sided. Some people will tell you, oh, you have to give something up. They're right. Other people will say, oh, you got to do something extra. Well, they're right too. In the same sense that I had to not only give up the junk food, but add the running to my regimen, so we must do the same thing to prepare for that course, for that race, to carry the cross with Jesus. And the race that we are preparing for starts Holy Thursday night. It goes through Good Friday and the end of the Easter Vigil on Saturday night until the victory of Easter morning. That means we can't do it halfway. Because I can tell you what happens when you do it halfway. It becomes difficult. It becomes hard. It doesn't become as meaningful. It becomes more difficult. It becomes grueling. And we don't get the grace that we really deserve and need from this period of Lent. And so this is what I encourage all of you to do. Take this time extremely seriously for your spiritual growth. This is a serious time and a serious matter. I love Lent because this is the time when we can focus on removing the things that separate us from God and put into our lives the things that bring us to God. And so when you give up something, and you should, make it something that hurts a little bit. Make it something that separates you from God, that takes up your time, that distracts you. Don't just give up candy because you want to lose 10 pounds. Not a great reason to give up candy or to fast. Give up something that is in between you and God, whether it be gossip or drinking or television or what have you. But we also have to add something to replace it, because that time that has been given over to Christ needs to be filled with Christ. And what that means is I recommend that you make an extra visit every week or every day to the Blessed Sacrament. This church is open every day from about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if it's not open, sit on the front steps. He still hears you. But to make that physical presence of Christ available to you is something that is going to bring you closer to Him. It is like eating the good food. It is like running the good course. It is like adding to your spiritual life so that at the end of Lent, people will look at you and say, what's different about you? When I trained for that first half marathon, and this was not an intention of mine, but it's just something that happens, I lost 40 pounds doing that in 16 weeks. I didn't tell anybody I was training for a half marathon. I didn't want to do it because I was embarrassed. But people knew. People saw the difference. People saw the change. And that's why in the gospel we do not broadcast the fact that we are fasting. We don't broadcast the fact that we've given something up, if it's possible. We don't broadcast that because people will know something has changed because we will change. I didn't have to tell people that I was training for a marathon. They saw it. And so when we train for this course, when we give up those things that separate us from God, when we make the sacrifice for Him, when we offer that up, when we add something to our spiritual life and bring it all up a notch, I guarantee you that when we do get to that race day of Holy Thursday, and that race begins, that triduum, that 3-day triathlon, it will be more meaningful and deep and pierce our hearts to the very core. And that means, yes, we will feel the sufferings of Christ deeper, but we will feel His victory even more profoundly than we ever would have before. And so this is an opportunity to walk into the desert with Christ. This is an opportunity to turn our back on the things that distract us and bother us, that we may be present to Him as He has made Himself completely and utterly present to us. This is the retreat for the entire church. And when we retreat from the things of the world. We retreat from the things that separate us from God and distract us. And we retreat with Him into the silence of our hearts, into the barrenness of the desert, that we may see and experience with great and profound joy and unity and peace the victory of the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ.